Hi, and welcome to BoardBee. Today we'll be doing a simple NESmaker game. Now, if you're not familiar with NESmaker, it's a Windows application for making NES games for real hardware. For more information about NESmaker, I recommend that you check out www.thenew8bitheroes.com. Now, before we get started, make sure you have NESmaker 4.5.9 installed. Also, I recommend that you follow the steps with me. That way you'll learn more and you'll be ready for the next tutorial, where we'll continue working on this game from where we left off. So, we'll start off with a simple project. My plan is to make a platform game where we will continue to build upon this game in the upcoming tutorial videos. We'll start off simple and make the game more complex and interesting as we go along. I'll show you how to make the player, monsters, levels, power-ups, and finally simple cutscenes. So let's get started. So the game we will be making today is Ghosthunter Pete. Now this will be a simple platform game just to get you familiar with the basics of NESmaker. So what we'll do is we'll make a start screen, gameplay, a cutscene, and a game over screen. So if you've seen Joe's tutorial videos on NESmaker, the official videos, this will be kind of similar like that, but the point here is to make a complete game. Now don't expect 2 hours of gameplay, but we'll make a working game. So before we open up NESmaker, let's take a look at the plan first. It's always a good idea to write down as much as you can before you start making your game. So as you can see here, I've drawn 3 objects. Ghosthunter Pete, which of course is our player, and the ghost bullet, that's the player projectile, and we have our ghost here, which is the monster. So under each of these objects I've written a short description of each object. So let's take a look at Ghosthunter Pete. His actions are really simple. I just want him to be able to walk left and right. I want him to be able to jump, and I also want him to be able to shoot ghost bullets, but only when he has the power up. So he can't shoot at the beginning of the game. Now as for health, I want him to have a health bar with 8 units, but only 4 units at the start of the game. So he'll start the game with half health. Now about lives, I want him to start with 3 lives, but I also want him to be able to pick up an extra life. So maybe some enemies drop an extra life and he can pick that up. As for the ghost bullet, again, very simple. I just want the projectile to fly in a straight line, and I also want it to be destroyed when it touches solid objects or enemies. So very simple. And for the ghost, again, very simple, just move left and right. And when he hits a solid object, I want him to reverse direction. So this is the basic plan of our game. Nothing too fancy, just a simple platform game. Okay, YouTubers, are you ready? That's great. So let's start off by opening up NESmaker. I have my NESmaker folder here on my desktop. So we go into NESmaker, the folder, and we'll start nesmaker.exe. So when NESmaker starts up, you're given 2 choices. Load a project. We don't have a project yet, so we're going to choose new project. Now let's not worry about these choices for now. We are creating a game from scratch here, so let's just use this one. Create blank tile sets. And notice when I click this text box opens up. So this will be the name of our game. So I'm just gonna write Ghosthunter Pete in here. Now notice I didn't use any spaces. Don't use a space when you're writing something in here. You might get problems. So Ghosthunter Pete in one word. Now the next thing down here is the starting module. The default is the adventure base. So that's a Zelda style game. We don't want that for this game. Now you might get confused here because there are several platform modules. you have the arcade platformer, you have the LR platformer, and you have the Metrovania. All these three modules are platform games, and after all, we are making a platform game. So the difference here is when you're making an arcade platformer, that module is basically like the Donkey Kong games where you have one screen and you're not supposed to scroll or anything like that. In the LR platformer, you have like a Super Mario Bros. 1 game where you can only advance to the right. Now I want my player to be able to go both left and right on the levels. So if we want that, then we have to choose the Metrovania. So basically that's the biggest difference between this one and this one. The LR, you can only scroll to the right. Metrovania, you can scroll both ways. So let's choose that one. Okay, let's click OK. And here we go. So the first time you open up NESmaker, you might get a little confused because this is basically your menu. If you click the overworld, these are all the screens in your game. But that's not quite true. We also have screens here in the underworld. Now, the underworld, let's leave that for now. Because the way NESmaker is set up right now is, well, the screens in the underworld might not work as you expect. So let's not worry about that for now. So we're only going to create screens here in the overworld. But I told you this was going to be fun. So let's start off with something fun. Down here we have our pixel editor. If you click here, we can just go ahead, start drawing right away. So I want to start by drawing my player. How do I do that? Well, you have to click here, load BMP file. So as you can see, there are a lot of blank files here, default in NESmaker. And if you notice up here, it says Ghosthunter Pete. So we are in the right folder already. You can see here, BCK, CHR. These files are your background tiles. Obviously, they're all blank right now. And BCK, BCKS, CHR, those are also background tiles. But we're not going to do anything too complicated right now. So let's just remember that BCK, CHR, these first files, those are background tiles. And there are also several others down here. Now when we scroll down a little bit, you'll see these ones named Monster, Monster 000, Monster 001, and so on. These are the files we'll use to make monsters, but I want to make the player right now. So if we go to this one, Game Object Tiles, that's the one we want right now, because that's where our player graphic lives. So click the Game Object Tiles and open. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that you know a little bit about the NES. And if you do, then you'll know that sprites on the NES are 8 by 8 pixels. So we're drawing a sprite right now. So if you click this one, this button right here, it says 8. It says group pixels in 8 by 8 tiles. Yes, that's what I want. So I want to make a small player right now. So I think I'll do 2 by 2 tiles. Now this area on the left, that's your palettes. That's our colors. But as you can see right now, it says background palette. Those are the palettes we'll use when we make our background tiles. But if you want to use the sprite palettes, click this button. And you see here it says monster palette. So I don't want these colors. So I want to pick this one, and let's make this one right here, and let's make let's give him a red sweater. Okay, now notice something right here. If I click this pink right now and start drawing, you can see it's red, and if I click the brown one, it's green. So that's really not what we want. The thing here is NESmaker is set up to do this by default. So if you want these colors, you have to click this middle button right here. There we go. That's the colors we want. So let me just erase these ones right here. Like that. Okay. Now we can draw our player. So let's start by giving him a round, nice head. Like that. And I want to have some hair too. So there we go. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Let's just do this for the eyes. And I said I wanted to have a red sweater, so let's do that. Yeah, I'm sure that's fine. And let's give him brown pants. Now this is a very compact little guy. Let's just make the feet a little more visible, like that. And let's draw the hand right there. Okay, this is our little guy. Now this is what I want him to look like in the idle position, but I also want him to be able to walk. So let's just copy what we have right now. Notice I chose this one. If you choose this one, you can select tiles. If you choose this one, you can choose small areas if you need to do that. But I want to choose this one so I can copy all these 4 tiles at once. So just copy them, Control C, and move your mouse in here. And now hold down Shift, Control and V. Shift, Control and V. If you do that, then he'll paste it in the nearest tile. So I'm inside this tile. So when I click V right now, he'll paste it from this tile and fill out all of these 4 tiles. So now let's choose this other one, this other selection tool, and we'll copy our player, Control C, and I'll just paste him 1 pixel lower. And I'm gonna erase the top of his hair. And I don't want this, because this won't show up. This is in the tile below. And when you're drawing a walking animation, I think it's best if he bops up and down a little bit. And we need to make it very clear that he's walking. So just exaggerate a little bit here, like that. It's not let's clean it up like that. And I also want his hand to be back here. So if we'll do that, it looks really strange, but I'm sure it's gonna work. So that's what I want him to look like. Actually, you know what? Let's make his hand appear over here. And I'll show you why in a second. So there we go. That's perfect. That's our little guy. So I'm gonna make a very simple walking animation with just these 2 frames. And I'm also going to use this for his jump animation. Just 1 frame. So if we save this file right now, click this Save BMP. Okay, now we have some very basic graphics. And we go to Game Objects up here. This is where our player is. This is the player object. Now as you can see, because we saved our graphics in the game objects file, they show up in here. If we did, if we drew in the monster file, we wouldn't see anything in here, because this is the game objects tile. Okay, let's set up this character. I want him to be 2 tiles tall and 2 tiles wide. Okay, before we do anything else, let's set up some basics here. Let's go to Object Details. Now where it says Default, let's click Rename. And I want to rename this to Idle. So this is animation type Idle. That's what we're doing right now. But since we're here, let's add some more. I want to have other animation types. I want to have a walk animation type, and I also want a jump animation type. Now as you can see, for each of these you have 8 states over here. So all of these says default animation. Okay, what's that? Well, if you go here to manage animations, you'll see it, we have it right here, default animation. Now let me show you something. Here we'll write idle right and rename that, and we'll add another one and we'll say idle left. We'll have to make left and right ones for all of our animation types. So let's just make a walk right, a walk left, a jump right, and finally jump left. There we go. Okay, so if we go back here in the object details and we go to idle up here, you can see that it has changed to idle right for all of these. Now we don't have to worry about up or down, because my character is never going to move up and down. So for the right mode it has idle right, and that's correct. But for the left one we want our idle left. And let's go over to the walk animation type, and for the right we'll choose walk right. For our left we'll choose walk left, and we'll do the same thing for jump. Jump right and jump left. Okay, now since we're already in the object detail window, let's look at these tabs over here. For details, this is our basic detail for our player object. Now your player is always going to be persistent. That means that your player is going to move from screen to screen. You don't want that for monsters, only for the player. So click persistent and player for this one. Always choose these two for your player. Now if you remember from our plan, we said that we wanted this guy to have 8 health units. So let's just choose 8 up here for health. And for solid object reaction, what happens if our player hits a solid object? Well, I want him to stop. So think about it this way. If you have a solid tile right here and your player falls down, you want him to stop when he hits that tile. And the same thing, if he's walking and hits a tile from the side, you also want him to stop. So that's what this thing does. For the edge object reaction, for now let's just choose go to next screen. You know, since we're making a scrolling game, this is not going to matter too much, but I'll show you what I mean in a second. The normal max speed for this guy, let's set it to 21. That's fine. And the acceleration speed, now I want my player to go from 0 to 100 at the moment I press the right or left on my D-pad. So let's just choose the maximum here, 255. That way he'll have maximum acceleration the moment he starts walking. And for jump speed, let's try 37 for now. We might have to adjust these later. So for actions up here, the next tab, these action steps are predefined in NESmaker. So action step 0, that's actually the idle one. So this one is correct right now. But for action step 1, that's walk. That's programmed into NESmaker. So we want our animation type to be walk on this one. We don't have to worry about action for now. That's for when you're doing monsters. Now, since we're doing a walk animation, we need to have an animation speed. So we haven't set up our animation for walk yet, but I'm gonna try to set it to 3 anyway. Okay, and the number 2 here, that's jump. So let's set our animation type to jump. We don't need any animation speed here, because the jump animation, that's just going to be 1 frame. So that's basically it. And let's go over to the bounding box. Okay, I haven't finished. You know what? Let's just finish setting up this player. As you can see up here, our character is 2 by 2 tiles. So if you place your cursor up in the left corner here, hold down Shift and drag down here, it automatically copies our guy into here. Now this is our idle right, and it looks fine. But we have to do the same thing for idle left. Remember, these are our animations, our animation states. So if you choose idle left, let's do the same thing. Place a cursor up here, hold down Shift and drag down there. But I don't want them to be facing right. This is idle left. Well, fortunately, NESmaker has a simple button over here that says flip frame. And now he's facing left, so that's perfect. And for walk right, now we're going to have to worry about one thing, and that's the number of frames. So let's move up here to frame count, and let's choose 2 frames for this animation. So I'm going to choose hold down Shift and do this one for the first frame. And if you go here where it says frame, now we have an option to choose frame 2. For frame 2, I want this guy. Hold down Shift, drag down here, and we have this. So if I set this one, this is the animation speed. So you can get a little preview down here. So let's set this to 3. See how our animation looks like. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine for our little game. Okay, that's walk right. Now let's do the same thing for walk left. Copy this guy for frame 1. Now you see here it says frame count 1. The frame count 2, that was just for walk right. We have to do the same thing for walk left, because you can see we have just frame 1 down here. So we need to set frame count to 2 for the left animation as well. You see, now we have frame 1 and 2. So frame 1 is this one, frame 2 is this one. Now, the same as for the idle animation, he's facing right now. We don't have to flip each individual frame. Fortunately, we can just flip the animation by using this button over here. So if you click play here, you can see he's running to the left. That's perfect. That's just what we want. And finally, the jumping. So jump right. we just want to use this one. And for jump left, do the same thing, but flip the frame like that. Okay, so now we have set up our player. And let's go back to object details, and now we can give him a bounding box. The bounding box, that's like the hitbox. I'm sure you have heard that before, hitbox. So this is going to do a couple of things. If I do, let's do something like that. Like that. So what's the hitbox? Well, the hitbox or bounding box, that's where your player is getting hit by. So if an enemy is passing you by, and is passing you by just over here, you won't get hit. But if our bounding box was all the way over here, you would get hit, because the game doesn't care about your graphics. It just cares about this bounding box. That's where the collision happens. Now notice one thing here. I have left 1 pixel down here. The reason I've done that is because if you take the bounding box all the way down here, then you'll have some issues with the player getting stuck in tiles and stuff like that. So just leave 1 pixel down here, and I just do it for the top as well. I don't know if it's necessary, but I'll just do it anyway. So that looks fine. So if we close this thing, we can see that our object has changed to our little player guy right here. Okay, let's do some more fun stuff. I want to continue to draw, so let's move back to the pixel editor. Now remember, this was in the game objects tiles. If we want to do some background tiles, do you remember what we should choose? That's right, the BCK CHR, one of these files. Just to keep it simple, let's start with the first one and work our way down here. I don't think we'll be making more graphics than just this one file, but let's choose this one for now. Okay, now the tiles in NESmaker are not 8 pixels by 8 pixels. So let's click away that one, and let's just click this one, group pixels in 16 by 16. This is the size of the tiles in NESmaker. Now you might have heard the name meta tiles. That's what this is. It's a tile made up of 4 small tiles. But let's not get confused there. Let's keep it simple. So just remember that tiles are 16 pixels by 16 pixels, and sprites are 8 by 8 pixels. And also, let's not forget the palettes over here. Now we have monster palettes here. By the way, before we leave the monster palettes, let's rename our palette here for the player. Let's just call this player pal and click rename, so we don't get confused later on. Okay, so when I click this monster palette up here, then I'm back to the background palette. So these are the colors I can use for my background. This top left one right here, the black one, that's the default color. That's the transparent one. So let's not change that, let's just keep it black. But I want to just change this one. And I want this player to start with a level that's covered in sand and grass. So I'm gonna make this yellow and brown, and I'll throw in some green here as well, like that. Okay, so let's keep it very, very simple. I'm gonna choose the yellow, and I'm gonna choose this fill tool right here. And when you can see here, when I'm filling a tile, it doesn't fill up the complete 16 by 16 tile. it fills up just one 8x8 tile at a time. So you'll have to do this 4 times. There we go. There we have our first tile. But I want to make it a little more interesting, because this is a sand tile. So let's just give it a few dots over here. Like that. I'm sure that'll be fine. You know what? Let's move this one. Let's click our select tile tool. Click this tile, Control C. Click over here, hold down Shift, Control and V. Now I'm going to show you in a second why we did that. Let's erase this one first. Now the reason I did this is because the top left tile here, that's the default tile. So let me show you. Let's save this one right now. And if we go to the overworld right now and click in this screen right here, you can see a player is already placed there. There's our little guy right there. Now you can see this whole thing is black right now. If you go to the pixel editor and do this and save our tiles and go back to overworld, just give it a second. You might have to go back and forth. There you go. So for the default tile, it's always going to choose the top left one. So be careful about what you place in here. I'm gonna place something really simple, something I want on all my screens. I want a light blue background. I want it to be daytime, so I'm gonna choose a bright blue color for that. So you have 4 palettes for each screen in your game. So this one I'm going to use for the grass tile, for the sand tiles, and I'm gonna make a new one right here. You know what? I might get some problems here, because it's always going to choose the first palette. So let's make this one the grass palette. Sorry, the sand palette. Let's just copy our colors over here. And let's use this one for our first tile. Now you can see this tile will change by what palette you choose over here. This is not going to matter in your game. You have to choose the palettes later on. I'll show you that. But for now, let's make a completely blue tile. Sorry, a blue tile over here. Save that. Let's check out our screen over here. Again, it's gonna take a few seconds to let it update. There we go. This is our default screen. If we move over to the next screen, you can see it's blue as well. Now another thing, I'm not going to use a HUD, not the default NESmaker HUD anyway. So just click this box, show HUD. Then you get rid of this HUD box up here. So I'm going to make one more tile, and then I'm going to start making my level. So let's choose this select tile tool, select this one, Control C, move over here, hold down Shift C, Control Shift Control and V. Sorry. And this is going to be the top of my grass tile, sand tiles, like that. And you know what? I want a darker color, darker green. So for this one, I'm going to choose that. And let's make this a little more decent looking. So there we go. Now we have our top tile like that. Okay, save this. Go back to the overworld. Go back to this screen right here. And you can see it is updated up here. So if you right click in the middle of the screen, you can place the player right over here. Let's do that. And let's choose this one, the sand tile. Just start drawing. Whoops. Yeah, it's fine. So this is our level. Like that. But I want the top of my tiles, top of the ground, to have this one right here. I want the top of the ground to look like that. Okay, and just fix this thing right there, and yeah, that's fine for our the start of our level. So as you can see, NESmaker has still the last tile it chose selected. Just click escape and you have a blank tile here. Just so you don't make any mistakes by yeah, let's not make any mistakes here. Okay, let's place our player right here. Right click, place player. Okay, well, it's starting to look like a game, but we haven't said anything about collision. So if we check collision up here, the collision button, you can see that all of these tiles says 0, 0. Now 0, 0, that's, as you can see over here, null. That's nothing. It's walkable. So if we kept our level like this, our player would just fall right through here. We don't want that. We want this to be solid ground. So to do that, we need to go over here to collision and choose solid from the list here. And just to be sure we don't make any mistakes now, click collision up here. And if you're able to see the graphics behind, then we can start painting collisions. So if you hold down 0 on your keyboard, you can see if we press 0, it's going to paint with the collision we have chosen up here. If I choose, let's take this warp one right here and click 0 over here, you see it places a 3 here, because 3 is a number of the warp tile. Now I don't want the warp tile in the middle there, so let me choose null, go over here and press 0 on my keyboard to erase that. So let me just finish painting the screen with solid tiles. Choose solid and place your pointer over here and hold down 0. Just hold it down and move your mouse all the way down here and across the ground where you want it to be solid. So like that. That makes sense. So now the player can't move left and he can't fall down. And if he goes down here, he can't go further left than this. He can't go further right than this. Now, let's not worry about scrolling for now. Let's just see if this works right now. You know what? I want to see if the game works right now. So I'm going to press this, the export and test button, to see if it works at all. So when you press this button, the game is assembled, the code is assembled, and if you get this message, no error messages, just press any key to continue, that's a good sign. So press any key, and there we go. Our game is kind of working, but nothing's happening right now. So that's because we haven't said anything about controls right now. So let's close this And let's just take a moment to feel good about ourselves, because our game is working so far, and it's looking okay. But let's do another important thing. Before anything happens now, let's save this. So click here, Save Project. And I always like to save my projects in the NESmaker folder under Projects, right there. And just call it Ghosthunter Pete and hit save over here. Okay, now let's just take a little break.